very glad to have this opportunity. I was thank the Raj to give me this opportunity, and also organize to have time for me to speak about. And so my talk is about the kind of introduction to what I am doing in my the groups, and I would also introduce about our society meeting in the last to announce you that we are creating some Asian alliance among the whole those Asia Pacific countries, and with some of you who is really involved in digital pathology and AI, I would like you to consider come to Japan to discuss the issue with us. So there are several COI. If you don't know where Nagasaki is, this is Google Earth. And as you can see, so here's India. Here I am actually in Japan. I think that most of you, or of course know about Tokyo and Kyoto and famous cities. Nagasaki is actually here in a very west edge. Look at those small islands. We have 2,000 islands. And so this is a Nagasaki city. And here we have a pretty good, the small city and surrounded by the mountains. And in the middle is our hospital. So this is what I am located. And here we would have a conference. Before I start my talk, I would probably talk about a little bit about the condition of Japan. The population is, compared to India, it's like we are like a small kids, It's like less than 1/10. But compared to America, the number of the pathologists is significantly low. The ratio is about like 1 in 4. And what is not good about is the number of the pathologists are actually dropping down, and there is a serious shortage of pathologists, and we actually need a pathologist training center. When I moved to Nagasaki, this is a map of Nagasaki. It was 2012, and at that time there was this number 20-some pathologists. But when time goes, 10 years, I think the active pathologist is going to be like let's say 7, because most of them are retired. So that was the kind of a situation. So my talk would have 4 parts. First one is an introduction of the digital pathology, and I'll talk a little bit about the digital consultations and AI, and I will introduce about our society meeting. So first, I will talk a little bit about digital pathology. I think that many of you already know about digital pathology, and many of the speakers already talk about digital pathology, I believe. So I'm going to do it a little short. But on your left is, as everybody's familiar with, this is the world of the microscope. And if you're in the dark room, you notice that those blinking lights, when it rotates in the revolver of the optics, you completely lose the light, and the next moment you have a strong light coming directly to attack your eyes. So now I feel like when I look at the microscope, I feel quite dizzy, and it's quite the storage for the eye. On the right is the digital pathology, and when I moved that, it's almost 7 years ago. I just got this one room, and as you can see, we have only one microscope, very old one. It's like the same age as like myself. And, we just correct those at a desk in a garbage room, and started my laboratory. This was the beginning. And a couple of months later, I bought the multi-headed microscope and built up this diagnostic room for the education. So this is like every day the scenery. And I created the second room for the cytology session, and then this started those education in the university. It was quite fun. I get the very nice moment with the students and the young fellows. But there is a strong limitation that I need to be there, and the students have to come to this small room
to join to the session. So number of the people who I can teach or we can grow is very much limited. Then we decided to purchase the scanner. First one we got was the Philips. Actually, we got the Philips scanner in a second place among in the whole Asia after Singapore, and this was the 2015 January. Looking back 5 years ago. Then we create a room for the digital diagnosis. So it's a complete cockpit. As you can see, we don't have a microscope at all. And we just set up those and three the monitors connected to the computers. And on the wall, we have those monitors to make a discussion. At that time, we have just a small camera to share people's face. But how we built up our laboratory was that I have 3 different institutes. Right, my main is my university, Nagasaki University. But at the same time, I am also managing one big hospital located the east edge of Japan, Kameda Medical Center. And also there is in the middle of Japan, there is a satellite hospital, which is the middle side. So there are several hospitals. For the beginning was the situation that the people, of course, in the hospital have to look at the old cases. That's I think that most of the time right now the people are doing in this way. But I just tried to change the workflow. What I did was just, okay, I'm good at lung. I'm a lung pathologist, as the Raj kindly had introduced me. But then I'm not so good at, I'm not expert at soft tissue. So sarcoma is for me is okay. Oh, there's a spindle cell. Okay, so what? Something like that. So if there's a dermal tissues, I want to send kids to the Raj to ask what this is. Something like that. So I'm just ordinary pathologist to make an ordinary diagnosis to the cases. My hospital does not have an expert to cover those things, but there are several hospital pathologists who is good at those things. So why don't we just exchange the case? That was the original idea. So just cut down those pieces to share, and then just, why don't we just look at the cases which we are good at, and then we can also not only share the cases, we can share the educations. That was the first idea. Then I was trying to create a big laboratory of the education. So I said for the students or the young fellows, okay, you can pick up the prices to work, and then you can get the same uniform education. That was a biggie. And to do so, what is very important one was like I'm doing right now. I'm using Skype now, but we are using right now a WebEx. But you tried several things. Right now, we are pretty much relying on the system of the Cisco WebEx, but it's not the perfect though, but it's still okay. So what I did as a first place was that there was a local community hospital in the middle of Japan, and which does not have a pathologist. So we sent one pathologist, one of my fellows. He is a senior resident, so he cannot find out everything. But then I asked him, I let him to communicate with those doctors. So he is a messenger to tell the diagnosis to all the doctors. And he is drafting all cases, and we are a pathologist. We get the money to hire one doctor, and we are as a group, look at his diagnosis to secure and to double check. How we did was, at that time, yes, we started by Skype, and he was my fellow, and we just look at his movement and his clinical record through the pathology LIS, and communicate through the Skype, and did the diagnosis all together. And not only for the diagnosis, for the conference, by one look, it's like a picture that I'm just sitting without doing anything. Hey, is a kind of a sabotaging things. But no. I was working, and on the other side of the monitor, there was those group of people who's the pulmonologist or clinician or radiologist, and look at the cases together. I am supervising the young fellow to run those conferences. And now, what we are doing every day is that we are opening up our Cisco WebEx early morning, 7 o'clock usually, and then finish those communication night about 8 o'clock p.m. So all those 12 to 13 hours, it's all on. And all the rooms where pathologists are there located are connected. If they are shy enough, they can close the video monitor, like this one. And but if they're okay, like myself, they just open up those cameras. Only thing is that they mute they mute the speakers. And then all the first channel is all open all the time. So if they have some difficult cases or also the sign-off session, they just gather. And then we can suddenly set up the second channel to discuss something or a difficult case or a case conference with clinicians, and also the clinical sequence expert panel for the genetic the workup. We would set up another channel as well. So multiple channels on for those the groups. One of the nice feature what we got as a result was that there was one lady pathologist who just graduated the medical school. She was a student of mine, so she was wanting to be a pathologist. But what happened for her was her father was sick and actually was a terminal at a stage of the gallbladder cancer. So she decided to stay, with father. It's a far area, remote area, very far from our university. So she just gave us to become a pathologist. And I decided to hire her inside her room, her house. So I negotiated with the hospitals. My university was not really kind enough to provide that position, but one of my hospitals among in the group would agree with my idea to give all the laboratory the LIS system built inside her room, and we start education to her through the communication. As you can see, other fellows joined. There are 2 board certified pathologists and myself, the intern teach her the cases directly. So how we did is that we often use like this one. So when we are I am in a separate place like here right now I'm in Osaka. I just finished my other course and now connecting to India. How do it? I just join to the session like this way, and then this WebEx communication startup, and then we can just connect to the sessions. This was recorded a couple of days ago, and at that time there was a sign-up session for the cytology. So as you can see, Andre, my fellow, actually my associate, he's in Kamogawa. And Chris is actually in Nagasaki. They are discussing about the cytology cases, and those number of the people are just all the time connected. So in this way, this is my crazy schedule. As everybody, Raj is actually crazier. His schedule is not like this narrow. He doesn't have those wide areas. So anyhow, my schedule starts always like 7 a.m. and finish around 6 p.m., 7 p.m. and all the time. It's all filled up by the session stuff. And these areas are actually done through the web. So I don't need to be in any particular place from anywhere. So those works were designed to be done through the web conference, and I can be anywhere. So I will show you the map of Japan again. So Nagasaki is here, and the Kameda is actually the east edge of Japan. It's 1,000 kilometers away, and in the center of Tokyo, we also have the center who has multiple board certified pathologists, and we are taking care of those satellite hospitals. So those are the currently the network which we are building for the diagnosis and also the education. Actually, we do the diagnosis and education at the same time. None of the case was done in a how to say single looking. All the cases are signed out by sign-out session. So it's all educational the places. The second one is for digital consultation, which improves the diagnosis. Of course, as everybody knows. Well, this is a kind of a silly question. I keep asking this question mostly to the clinician and also just the patient, whoever, outside of the pathology, because the pathologist may know the answer. So the clinician, if I ask a clinician, okay, if the pathologist is not so good, like my soft tissue diagnosis. So if they send some of this difficult sarcoma to me, then my report is not really perfect, like not really the expert like Dr. Bui does. And then that my diagnosis is like a so-so pathology. Okay, then what happens? Then the prognosis of the patient will be, of course, going poor. That's actually the clinician's the impression. It's not. It can be better. I think this is the most frequent way because judgment of the benign is harder. I rather say suspicious of sarcoma rather than say suspicious of benign. If the case is very, very difficult and it's beyond my expertise, I would say something descriptive, atypical spindle cell neoplasm, and suspicious of malignancy. In the later say I suspect this, and a differential diagnosis, but it's not completely concluded. Then what happened was that if the clinician is smart, then they could, or we can do the consultation, something like that. If don't do the consultation, sometimes, if clinician is suspected for malignancy and the pathologist diagnosis suspicious of malignancy, then the patient can treat it as a malignancy. Then recurrence, of course, never happens. So that would skew the prognosis. Okay, let's go back to the consultation. Okay, this is my mentor, my admirable mentor, Tom Colby, famous guy. My model, actually. So without the whole side images, what do you need to prepare for consultation? Okay, we have to order additional on stain side, and staining, of course, are waiting, and those staining for sending, right? So it's at night usually. And then the technician start to work in Japan is quite late, not like America. And then they search blocks, like around noon. And then the section start evening, and the staining is the evening, of course. Then packing and picking up is the next day usually. Okay, then it is transported to Arizona. Takes 2 days, but he is very quick. As soon as he received the case, it's just gone. So it's amazing. His consultation TAT is like 1 hour. So it's like we are so surprised to see. But even so, receiving it takes more than a week. That's the fastest scenario. If there's a case coming to me, it takes 2 weeks. So that's I feel like guilty. But that's a common situation. But if I do it, on a later way. So this is one of the cases that I sent the case that the consultation is one of my friends that, okay, let's take a look at the case. Okay, here, I have one case that I'm not sure what that is. And okay, let's take a look. Well, this is the cell block. Okay, here we have some atypical cells. It's the cancer, mesothelioma. Okay, let's make this annotation. Good thing about digital is that once you open this particular system, once you make an annotation to the H&E, those, synchronizing immunostaining is also annotated at the same time. So that's very good. If you don't like those printed screen, you can change it, and you can just, put in the layers. You can just change the layer by clicking, rotating, the mouse. Anyhow, so how you do those consultations? Just hit this, options, and okay. Oh, this one's wrong actually. Yeah. Okay. It's those link. Wow. Sorry, I hit the wrong one. And then those links just paste to the email address, compose it, and hit the paste those email link. I just send this case to myself. Okay, and I just said consultation, and just copy paste and send, and it just received, in a second, of course. So in this way, what's the scenario is most often case I receive the consultation answer within a day. So it's significantly fast. And then, of course, the consultation is very important, the process for accurate diagnosis. There's no doubt about it. But Japan is quite a kind of unique country. It's very unique, but it's an interesting country that they don't consider those consultations as a medical, medical treatment. Then that there is no coverage of the insurance for those processes. So all the consultation were done as a volunteer. But by the spread of the WSI, of course, those consultations is going to be very easy. So I think the number of the consultations is going to be increased. That's important. But the important thing is we need to get some reimbursement. So our aim is to get some reimbursement inside Japan, and related to the WSI, I started this the study. The study was that, okay, let's correct those challenging cases. Definition is quite difficult, but let's define the challenge case, like let's say something having a probable, suspicious, or possible on top of the diagnosis. And then correct those cases and find out some interesting facts. Okay, we just pick up those 8 years because there's no overlapping of the pathologists. So those 2 years from the Nagasaki University, completely different pathologists looking at. And those 2 community hospital, completely different pathologists are looking at. So those 4 different the situations where I just collect the cases. Then what happened was that those percentage of, a difficult, case with suspicious or possible, some adjective, number is very, very low for the hospital who has a lone pathologist. Interesting. So you probably shouldn't hire multiple pathologists. Then that you have a more definite diagnosis. Is that true? Of course not. This is kind of a warning that if you have just only pathologists looking at all the time the cases, he may just conclude everything as a definitive diagnosis, but that may include some error. So we send around those possible probable diagnosis to the expert. And then what happened was find out those yellow and orange color was a changeable diagnosis. Okay, we just don't rely on the one consultant, so we just send around to the second consultation. If they don't agree with it, we send around to the consensus diagnosis with 6 pathologists, and then finally figure out that, okay, those 26%, which was disagreed by the first consultation, almost all the time, consultation was right. So the conclusion was that 20% of difficult cases may have a wrong diagnosis. That's a big deal. That's 5% of the 20%. So if you treat with, let's say 10,000 cases a year, you have several hundred cases are already having a wrong diagnosis. Wow, that's a huge. To do so, consultation is very important. But at the same time, we felt like maybe installing the AI in a practice may solve this issue. So we are now using AI for every day, not for the diagnostic itself, just for the aid of the diagnosis. But I'll show you how we use it. So we built up the AI tool to count the cells, tumor cells. Well, because of the clinical sequencing, every day we have to count the tumor percentage. And it's not really fun, and we know that all the numbers are wrong too, because we pathologists are not designed to count the cell, and it's not exciting at all. So I asked my student to build up the algorithms, and and then the student built up some of the segmentation platform. And also, he also designed a nuclear detection. He combined those 2. And then, we, as a pathologist, after the students analyze those cases, we look at those cases and decide if those segmentation and nuclear detections are done very well or not. If that's good, we use those numbers. So this is an example. Every day, I just make the video from the couple of weeks ago from the particular case. It's not really the particular expected. It's just an ordinary case. So now we are looking at those images saying, okay, make a judgment. Nuclear segmentation and also the cancer segmentation. Looks like this platform is doing pretty okay. So those numbers inside, outside of the cancers are actually indicated here. So the number is was reported, added in my pathology report. That's how we did. We did a validation study for those, those trials to make sure that we are doing the right things. So granted, we calculate those numbers of the cells for 29 cases, and I asked for pathologists to do give impression of how many percentage of the cancer for each case. And those black was actually the AI hello. And notice that many pathologists are doing pretty bad. These pathologists were probably looking at cases with it was eating something or watching TV, whatever. It's quite a deviation. Okay, and well, he reported this in the Congress and received the award. So, okay, this is a question to you. Think about it. Okay, how much cancer cells are included in this particular area? So there's a multiple answers. Okay, so please decide. Okay, I'm not going to ask you particularly, but please decide in mind. Okay, which one is right? All right. So then I'll show you. So here's this case, and which was recognized by AI pretty well. Okay, we consider this is okay. So the number we referred was 28%. It's quite a convincing data. And although there are a couple of the area which AI is not really doing good work, but it's just 3 cells we just ignore. We just report the 28% into the report. And this particular case was shared with the Sun pathology meeting. At the time, 59 pathologists joined. Look at this. The right answer, only 3 was given. Okay. So we are now using this AI and for prospective manner, and we just got the numbers and how we did. The pathologist impression and the final answer. We just used, same answer was very limited. Notice that we often change our impression. So this is the data. So I think it's many people ask me, AI, is it friend or foe? I think that many of you in as an audience are also asked several times same questions, I believe. So I think it's, AI is just a tool, and this can be either way. So it's a force. So the guy with the force can be Yoda or Darth Vader. But it's not only a pathology. I think that all the clinicians are in the same position. Finally, I want to introduce our society meeting, Ninth Japanese Society of Digital Pathology, which will be done this year in Nagasaki, my town. As you can see, Nagasaki is quite a beautiful city. Night view is selected the best 3 night view of the whole world, along with Hong Kong and Monaco. So we are proud of that. And we have quite a long history of digital pathology meetings. It's already nearly 20 years. This is the kind of a picture which we got from the last year. We did at the Hamamatsu. There are many people came from kindly joined to our session from the America and from DPA. And we have lots of vendors as well. So this year is held in Nagasaki. And Nagasaki is, as I said, it's quite a beautiful city. And it's not a big city. The population is just 500,000. And lots of islands. You can enjoy those islands or some kind of unique Christianity as well. And there are several restaurants. This is a restaurant, actually, famous restaurant, provide nice food and lots of beautiful islands. So please consider coming to Nagasaki using this opportunity and then a couple more days to enjoy the scenery. And places inside our university, we have those scenery. And we have quite a solid guest speakers. Yeah, Professor Anil Parvani top reader of the digital pathology, and also Professor Marilyn Bowie. She was the past president of the VPA. Those two are the tremendous, fantastic readers, and I think that they would probably give us a nice guide to the Asian societies as well. And also the guy who set up the chameleon study, the Dr. Yolanda van der Lack, he kindly agreed to come to Japan to give the talk about the AI. And we also have several nice Japanese reader of the digital pathology and also the AI. And there's also a guy who is the co-founder of the Human Protein Network. I think this is very famous, so many of you already know. And of course, Dr. Shin, he kindly agreed to come to Japan. So, it's nice the work. I'm very much looking forward to listening to that. And one of my friends, Lee Cooper, is a master of the AI as well. So we have many people coming from Russia, Singapore, Korea, China. Unfortunately, probably from North Korea, but they're hoping some from India, Australia, Thailand, Taiwan, Myanmar, Malaysia. So many people are gathering. So we are trying to start the Asian Alliance as a possibility, and we want to discuss. And I want to mention also that the IHE Connect-a-thon decided to come to the Nagasaki to do the challenge. So if you have some vendor to join, you can also come to do this the Connect-a-thon competition. So I will stop it here. That this is the nice opportunity for you to know about Japan, I believe. And please share your knowledge and share our the data and friendship to start something. Thank you very much for paying attention. That's it. And I can accept the questions.